You don't scale your online tutoring business in 2026 by just doing more, posting random content and hoping for the best. You need to install the right systems. So in this video, I'll share with you the exact systems that we teach to our clients, all online tutors, to help them scale from 10K to 30K and even 100 grand a month and more in their businesses. So the reason why you're stuck trying to scale your student base predictably, it's not because your ads suck or your content's bad, not because you can't get your students results. I'm sure you can. You just lack a simple, repeatable process that gets you qualified leads on your calendar so you can make predictable enrollments. So in this video, I'll give you your full scaling roadmap for your online tutoring business to implement in 2026. So let's jump in. 2026 is going to create more seven-figure tutors than ever before, but only for those tutors who fix one system, and that's your student acquisition system. Being able to have a simple, repeatable, and predictable way to get online tutoring students in 2026 is exactly how you're going to scale your business. And in this video, I'm going to break down exactly what that system is so you can plug in and play and learn exactly how to scale your online tutoring business in 2026. So I'm going to share my screen, we're going to jump in, and this is exactly how to scale an online tutoring business in 2026. So let's go. So this is a strategic guide to predictable growth for online tutors who are already doing six figures or you're already close and your goal is to hit 100 grand months. Okay. So here's what we'll cover in this video. This is going to be a full guide that you're going to be able to implement. We're going to go through first why scaling your tutoring business is going to be different in 2026, what you need to watch out for. I'll then walk through why you should even listen to us and why I'm qualified to speak to you about this. Next, we'll go through what's stopping you scaling. There's 5 hidden bottlenecks. I'll uncover what they are. Then we'll walk through your actual offer of what you need in order to scale in 2026 predictably. We'll go through the acquisition system that produces consistent new student enrollments every week, how you're going to warm your leads up and nurture your leads properly with the 2026 nurture engine. Then we'll go through how to book qualified calls with ready to buy families and students. Then we'll walk through the updated enrollment script for scaling to 30, even 100 grand plus months as an online tutor. And then the pricing and math model that actually makes scaling possible. Okay. And then I'll make sure you've got a 12-week scaling roadmap for 2026 so you can tick this off, go ahead, implement it, and scale your online tutoring business. So here's first of all, why has student acquisition changed in 2026? There's a few reasons. Firstly, ad costs. So advertising on platforms like Meta, Instagram, YouTube, Google, whatever, they are rising simply because there's more people entering the marketplace, which means there's more competition, which means, of course, ad costs go up. Okay, which leads me on to that. There's more competition, right? There's more online tutors getting started, which is why the tutors who were previously scaling had amazing ad costs. They're getting caught up because there's more newcomers, right? Therefore, parents are obviously more selective as well. So you've got to stand out. Your branding has to be on point. You have to be positioned well. Referrals, of course, great way to get your business off the ground. They're a great way to get some easy signups, but they're not predictable. Okay, so it's definitely not the time in 2026 to rely on referrals if you're wanting to scale. Organic content, you can post organically on your social media profiles, and that's a great way to improve your branding when people search you up, but it's not a consistent way to get students, right? There's no clear input equals a clear output, right? It's a compounding effect with your organic, and it's mainly done for kind of brand building. So if people do check out your profiles, you've actually got some content on there that they resonate with. Yes, you'll get more warmer buyers or more warmed up prospects if people are coming in organic. But again, in order to stand out in today's, competitive marketplace, if you're going to use organic, you've got to almost be an elite content creator, which you're probably not. Okay. And you probably haven't got the time to invest into spending all day posting on social media profiles, prepping content. You've got other things to be doing, right? Plus, there's also AI noise. So there's a lot of ways that students can get help with AI these days, but you can use that to your advantage, and therefore the trust in real tutors to actually tutor and mentor. Parents are looking for real tutors to obviously, tutor their kids instead of the kids relying on things like AI, okay? The other reason why student acquisition has shifted in 2026 is simply down to the actual funnel that you're using based on where you're at inside of your tutoring business on a revenue stage. Okay. So if you're doing 50K months, the funnel you're going to use is very different to the person who's doing 10K months and so on. Okay. So we're going to walk through and cover what that is as well. But they're the things you actually need to watch out for. So first of all, what's possible and why should you listen to us? Well, if you haven't seen or heard from us before, we're known as the category kings in the online tutoring world for helping online tutors scale. We've scaled over 3,000 tutoring businesses now in the past 5 years. We've scaled multiple tutors to 7 figures. Here's Alan Sal. You can see on my screen, we handed him our 7-figure tutor club award, which we hand out to our clients once they've hit 7 figures in their business. You can see here in his channel, I hit 100 grand a month without even a major push or promotion. Graham, a tutor from the UK, look, we helped scale to over 7 figures. That's in pounds, but that translates to more than 7 figures in USD. He also won our 7-figure award. Laurie teaches STEM-based subjects online, also scaled to 7 figures. And you can see here at this point, she was enrolling consistently 50 students every single month. Tutu over here enrolled 18 students in a single day. At one point, scaled to over 100 grand cash collected in her business in a single month. Luke Savin over here, that's 100 grand cash collected and seen under 60 days. We handed him with an award as well. He did 34 grand in 24 hours. Jared, we helped literally scale from ground zero. We presented him this award at one of our events, and then he was hitting almost 40 grand in a single month. Okay, you can see here, whereas he said this has been the best year of my life. And then Marcus Samuel, or Marcus Smith as he calls himself, 50 grand in a single month. He did 43 grand in a single period as well. We present him with another award. Dalton even scaled to 500 grand cash collected. Okay, so that's why you should listen to us. Nobody else can show you these type of results for online tutors, and they're just a few amongst thousands that we've helped scale online now. So let's first look at what's broken in your student acquisition process. There's 5 acquisition breakages. One is having a weak promise. So this is simply what it is you actually do for your students. So when you go out to market, if you've got something that's a little bit wishy-washy, like, hey, we're going to help you boost your confidence, or we're going to help you get better grades, or whatever it might be, and it's not very specific or tangible, cold audiences, so the people, essentially strangers that you need to market to in order to scale, right? They simply don't understand what it is you're promising to them or what the specific result is. So they want to pay you, very low rates. They're not really attracted to you. You don't stand out. You don't build awareness for what it is you're doing for students. You just blend in like a pebble on the beach. That's the main reason why people struggle with student acquisition. The second reason people struggle is your economics in the business. So essentially, you might have a good offer, what you do for your students, and your promise and results might be solid, but your pricing doesn't support the advertising margins or the ability to hire team members, and therefore you can never keep growing. You can't get enough leads, you can't create enough opportunity, because when you enroll a student, you're simply just breaking even, right? So you need to make sure that you have a premium rate so it can support growth through advertising. Otherwise, you stay stuck relying on things like referrals, word of mouth, organic posting, that type of stuff. Third reason is the wrong funnel. So there's really kind of 3 different funnels that help you to scale, and it really is dependent upon where you're at in your business. I'm going to touch on this, but one is like a DM funnel, so direct messaging straight into Messenger. 2, you've got an instant form funnel, or you've got the shortcut funnel. And getting this funnel wrong based on your position in your business is a major blow that stops you scaling your student acquisition. Okay. 4th, you might be getting leads, but you're simply not nurturing leads, right? Stats show, you've probably heard of the marketing rule of 7, right? People generally need to see you 7 times, give or take, right? On average, to actually want to sign up and work with you. And so most tutors, what they're trying to do, they've got ads working, they've got leads coming in, but then they're trying to turn strangers into students, within a day. And it's not going to happen unless you've got a solid system in place to nurture those leads and build trust fast. Okay. Otherwise, you've got cold leads who've only just heard about you. They jump onto your calendar and they want to think about it, or they want to wait, or they can't make a decision. So obviously that's not going to be scalable because it's taking up time on your calendar when you could be speaking to more qualified prospects and buyers and families who already know you, already like you, already trust you. Okay. And then the 5th reason is your delivery model can't scale. You essentially become the bottleneck. You are putting out fires. You don't have the right team in place. Again, this is really because of the poor economics that you've probably got in your business, or you haven't been able to hire key team members to keep students accountable so results stay high and actually go up, and you're able to take yourself out of delivery to focus more on the revenue generating actions, enrollment calls, scaling the business, expanding your offer and your product. Okay, so you've really just got no leverage because you're not using the right delivery model as you scale your business. Okay, so we're going to cover all of those. So let's walk through the first breakage first, which is really getting the offer and the promise right. So here's what you've got to offer to scale in 2026. Okay, so your acquisition can only scale if your offer supports it. So the offer is built on three things. One is the promise. Second is the economics, so your price point. And third is the actual model that you offer to your students, okay, and how your business works. Okay, so there's three components to this. So let's walk through it. So the 2026 offer you need to have is the promise, rule of one, which means one subject, for example, reading, one student within that subject, first, second grade students, for example. You could probably do those two grades together, or year one and year two if you're in the UK. And then one result. What are you going to help them achieve? Jump 2 grades in their reading, read on grade level, whatever it might be. Okay. Now, once you get this, the reason why this is important is now when you go to market, because you're promising a result, you are perceived as the chiropractor or the brain surgeon instead of just the GP generalist or the tutor, right? So you've got to get this first. Now, most people have this. They've niched down, they've got a solid result, but then they don't have the right model. They don't have the premium pricing to support this, which then makes it very hard to advertise. So the model you need to offer is simply a 12-week outcome-based program. So in 12 weeks, how are you going to help your students achieve the result that you promised above? Now, in order to do that, there's a few components or a few deliverables that you're going to need to include. Group delivery has to be group, otherwise it's not scalable. You end up stuck, building a full-time schedule and you can't focus on all the other areas of the business. Essentially, you build a glorified job. The reason that happens is because you just really haven't got a clear promise in the first place. So as long as you've got this, you should attract students that can be grouped together. So you're doing 1 to 2 group sessions. You then got some point in time, once you've got enough students, normally we recommend once you hit 50 students plus, you're going to build some sort of curriculum or portal or self-study area that the students can learn from away from you. Some sort of parent-student updates, mastermind group, where it's in WhatsApp, where it's on Class Dojo, one of the platforms you might use, simple community, school communities, whatever it might be. And then a weekly onboarding process that is ideally delivered by some sort of TA, teaching assistant or onboarding specialist, so that when new students come in, you can bring them into an onboarding call every single week so that they're not like deer in the headlights once you send them into your group classes with students who are already enrolled. You can onboard them, set expectations, make sure that they feel settled. And then as your groups grow, you can actually place them in the right group based on where they're at. So they join in with other students who are at similar points in the journey to them. Of course, in the beginning, and this isn't really a beginner video, right? But in the beginning, if you are just starting out, it's easy to differentiate for your students so you can include them in the same group. But long term, you're going to have groups based on ability. And so this onboarding process that you'll host each week allows the student to get clear, set expectations, make sure they're plugged into everything they need, which helps reduce churn as well, and then place them in the appropriate group. Okay. And then from there, if you've got one type of student, then you can create a structured pathway. The students need to do A, B, C, D to get the result. That way it's easier to lead a team. It's simply like a McDonald's or a Starbucks, right? Where I could go to McDonald's here or Starbucks here in London, in the UK, or I could go in New York City, or I could go in Bangkok, or I could go in Singapore, Australia, Sydney, wherever it might be, and I'm going to get the same experience. That's because the process is the same, because they're serving the same drink. So you need to build your business this way. If you've got multiple subjects and you're teaching multiple subjects, great. Then you need to do the same thing for each of your individual subjects. That way it's easy for teachers to come in so that when you do scale, results don't slip. Okay. So that's essentially what you would offer. Now and that's the model part of your signature offer. The premium price point, then you have to charge. We're going to touch on pricing just a bit, but you have to be charging $1,000 or more for tutoring. Okay, this is subject dependent. You can then scale that to $3,000 or more. We've got tutors that we work with charging like $5,000. Okay, it really does depend on the subject. Also things, of course, like your sales skills, age of the student, things like that. There's a few variables in it. But if you're not charging a premium rate, what ends up happening is, as I said before, you don't have the economics to invest back into marketing because it costs you very similar to acquire a student than they're going to pay you. Or if you're taking them in on monthly subscriptions, things like that, then again, it just doesn't build the margin enough to actually scale your business. So you end up just stuck turning your ads off, turning them on, turning off, on, and you just can't get ahead. Okay. So we'll touch on pricing in a bit, but you're really looking at $1,000 or more for this 12-week outcome-based program. Okay, so let's walk through the actual funnel then. So here's the 2026 acquisition system. This is what actually scales. There's 3 types of funnel. Funnel 1 is the DM. So this is direct messenger or DMs, whatever you want to call it. This is great for tutors or teachers who are just getting started. So to hit your first 10 grand a month, you can absolutely get there very easy with this. Generally with Messenger, the reason why it helps you is sending someone into a Messenger conversation. I call it conversation control. You can bring them into a Messenger conversation. You can speak to the parent or student, whoever it is, whoever you're targeting. You can build trust, rapport. You can make sure they're a good fit. You can qualify them better. And then by the time they jump on a call with you, because you've already had that conversation, show up rate's going to be better. They already trust you. And that way the close is going to be easier. Okay. The issue is with this, it's time heavy. So whilst this is a good place to start when it comes to growing a business, it's really time heavy. Like you need to, and sure, like you can run automations, some stuff like that with AI these days inside of Messenger or whatever, but it does work better when you've actually got a human in there. So it does require more of a team. And in the beginning, most people don't have that team, someone to speak to their leads, or even worse, you hire someone from a non-English speaking country and then they can't really have the proper conversation. So your business looks, rubbish. It doesn't set a good first impression because the people who don't have a native English language can't really engage with the prospects properly to book them onto your calendar. But you can, like if you're the business owner and you've got time, I definitely recommend this, okay? The second funnel, now this can take you to like a 0 to 20K, even maybe a little bit more than that, 20K months. This is the instant form funnel. Okay, so the reason why this works is it doesn't really require a lot of time on your part. This is simply an instant form on Facebook where they enter their name, email, phone number. They put their details on Facebook. You can also ask them for some qualifying questions as well. And so you're going to get more leads through this. The reason being, it's keeping people in Meta's platform. So they do prioritize this, or they've got a preference to it because you're not trying to take them away from the Meta platform. So that can work. Again, you're going to get more leads. However, because it's on the platform, the quality generally seems to be lower. And so you do need to nurture them because what's going to happen, you're going to enter their details. You're then going to let them book on your calendar and they can obviously lie on like the qualifying questions and stuff like that. Most people won't, but some people will. So there is a risk like at scale, once you start to spend more, the people that actually book onto your calendar aren't as qualified. So your booking calendar, speak to new students, becomes less efficient. Okay. And so that means you're going to take a lot of calls and there's going to be a lot of people that weren't able to enroll. They weren't qualified. So you end up wasting a ton of time and that stops you from scaling. Okay. But it can get you so far because you're going to get a good amount of volume. What makes it work is the actual nurture system, which we will come on to, okay? Now, the third funnel, which is the most advanced funnel and the best for scaling to those 100 grand months, we call it the shortcut funnel, okay? It's a simple booking page and a VSL with some qualifying questions on, okay? This is great for those tutors who want to keep their calendar efficient, speak to more qualified leads. It does require more skill. It's got more tech involved. You've got to be good on video, things like that, okay? So what I'll do, I'll zoom in on this diagram that I've got here. I've actually got it on a separate sheet and I'll walk through, okay? So this is the funnels that we help our clients build out. So essentially we run ads, Meta, so Facebook or Meta as they call themselves, or Instagram platform. We then pick the funnel, as I was saying, so basically the vehicle. The destination's the same, right? Enrolling someone as a student, but the vehicle that you're going to take them there really depends on those 3 levels of where your business is at. You're either running instant forms or you're running straight into Messenger, okay? Now, before you've probably seen people run ads, like maybe you've run this in your business as well. You send someone to some sort of landing page that gives them some information. So this would be an external page you might set up in some sort of funnel builder, and they then enter their name, email, phone number. The way the shortcut funnel works is instead of sending them to a landing page, you skip that and you send someone straight to a VSL page, which is video sales letter. And that's the most scalable funnel, okay? Because underneath this video, you can put in a survey or application form. And so the reason why this is going to work is because people will have now seen your ad, that have had to leave the Meta platform or Instagram, wherever it is, go to a page with a video that you're breaking down what your promise is, what your offer is, how you help the students, why you're qualified to help the students this way. You stack social proof, testimonials, things like that, and then you give a clear call to action to fill out the application and book a call. So now people have seen your ad, they've seen this video, they've filled out the qualifying questions, the application form. Now they're directed to go and book a call on your calendar. Okay, so you get them to book a call on the calendar. Before that, we're going to come on to this in a sec, but now you're going to give them some sort of homework to warm them up before the call, and then you enroll on Zoom. Okay, so we'll touch back into this in a second, but that's essentially the flow of the funnel. So the real difference is where you send them first from your ads. Is it instant form? Is it straight to the VSL page or booking page? Or is it into Messenger? And we covered when and where you would send people to, or why, based on where your business is at. And if you've got time available and you're at the beginning, it's DMs. If you haven't got much time, you're in the classroom, something like that, you're doing other stuff, you're looking to scale your business and you're not quite at 20K, probably instant form, long-term shortcut funnel, requires more skill, more video production, but it's going to keep your calendar efficient, meaning more the bookings that do go on it, they're more qualified, obviously easier to enroll. Okay, so let's go through the actual nurture engine. So if you saw on my screen here, the diagram flow, there's two parts in the actual sales process from when you first that you can set up and you can automate, right? And then there's some other things inside of the nurture engine that help you enroll more students. Okay, so I'll cover the two things on this funnel. So the first thing is some form of homework. Okay, so once someone books a call on your calendar, you need to be giving them some form of homework, which is going to educate them on who you are, how you help, and why it works. So you want the parents or students coming to the call knowing what you do, how it works, and does it work? Meaning you've shared testimonials, case studies, stuff like that. So the only question that they've got left once they come onto Zoom is, how can it work for me? And that's when you apply what it is you do for your students to them personally on the call. Okay. Now, not everybody's going to enroll. Okay. Straight away. Now, in the beginning, basic bit of homework that you can use is some sort of PDF like this, and you can just put all of that in a PDF. Long term at scale, that's not going to work. You're going to need to use some form of case study. Perhaps this can be a student. It can be some sort of training, masterclass video presentation that you can create. Again, the more you can get them to see from you and hear from you, the more they're going to get warmed up. Okay. The more they're going to, or the chances are, more chance they're going to buy. All right. Straight away. However, for those people who hit a Zoom call with you, or they simply book a call on the calendar and perhaps they don't even turn up for the Zoom call, or they visit your VSL page or booking page and then don't book in, what we want to do is we want to send these guys back into our acquisition system. So we then do that with things like daily email, we can call and SMS, and we create what's called power content. So this is where your organic posting comes into play, because now people are going to follow you. And so the posts on your profile that you're creating, this is where they come in handy, because now people can see you, they're more likely to listen to you, they're going to take advice from you, they're going to pay attention. Okay. So eventually, just because someone hasn't enrolled straight away, they come back into your system where they're seeing all of this content, other advertising efforts that you can use as well, which we'll come on to in a sec. And then eventually they're going to be pushed back to the VSL, back to booking a call until they're ready to buy. Okay. So a lot of tutors just don't set this up. They're just trying to run an ad, get some leads, send them like an automated 7-day email sequence, and then wonder why parents and students aren't enrolling, because you just don't have a solid nurture system in place. So there's really 5 components to this. So we'll walk through what each of them are. First is the homework video. So I said you could start with some sort of PDF in the beginning. At scale, you want to have a video because it's, again, more time from the prospect seeing from you, hearing from you, so trust builds quicker. Now, in this video, you're going to want to simply demonstrate how you help your students, how it works, the results that you get your students to build trust before the call. So you definitely want to position or use some sort of video to do this. You can absolutely use a case study, okay? You're going to have some sort of proof stack and nurture your prospects as well. So again, these are these case study videos, testimonials, reviews that you're going to use, and you can apply that in the homework video or other places on your funnel, because you've got to have people already seeing or attending the call with you, knowing that it actually works. So as I said, you only want them to have one question left, is how will this work for me? Okay. Now, the third thing, this is where a lot of tutors go wrong. Again, when they try to scale, they're posting social media posts on their profiles, so Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, or whatever, and they're just waiting for them to be discovered organically. So what we do here is we use what we suggest is to create what we call hyper organic content, okay, or power content. So you take your posts, you put them on your social media profiles, and the best performing ones, or the ones that are based on your philosophy, so your views on education, potential objections. So it might even be like, hey, this is why group tutoring works. This is why you should have a tutor. This is why some students fail versus those students who don't. This is why you have got the time now. Whatever objections that you might have, and then stuff around your unique ways of getting your students results. So you want to be creating content around this. You place it on your social media profiles, and as I said down here, you can see what happens. We call this power content. So now what you can do is you can boost these posts, put just a few dollars behind it per day, some of your best ones, and then you push those posts to people who've already entered your funnel. So instead of sending the content to people who haven't heard of you before, you're sending it to people to warm them up further and build more trust, to nurture your leads. Okay, so we call this hyper organic. Now this is kind of like retargeting, right? But with the retargeting ads, so that is essentially placing an ad on Meta on the platform and then sending it again to people who've already entered your funnel. They're not cold anymore, they're warm or warmer because they've already been in your funnel, they've already heard about you, potentially they've had a call with you. There's different phases of the prospect journey, right? Or the buyer journey. Okay, so based on where they're at, your students or families and prospects, they need to see and hear different things from you. So for example, someone who hasn't booked a call, you want to be having ads that you're spending to people who perhaps hit this page, right? Or they saw your calendar and they didn't book a call with you, or they booked a call and they didn't attend. You're going to want to be sending reminder style ads to them. Okay, this can be in form of image or video, reminding them to book a call. Okay, so book your call. And this is where you can then use your testimonials and push them to people to warm them up, create more desire to go ahead and book that call, or perhaps they had a Zoom call with you and now they keep seeing these testimonials. So when the time's right, they're going to remember you because you're always top of mind because you're warming up your leads. You're not just trying to turn cold audience into students. Okay. And then long term, you're using some sort of daily nurturing email system. So with this, a lot of tutors will absolutely have, like, this is email 101, right? It's like a 5-day or a 7-day or a 14-day sequence that's done on automation, right? When students sign up, they fill out the application form, then you send them a series of emails. The only issue is a lot of tutors don't continue to email their leads. Stats show that emailing your leads daily gives you a 20 to 30% revenue lift for your business. That's huge, right? It's almost a third. Now, what you're going to be doing here is, because if no one ever, if your leads go through the sequence and then they don't see and hear from you again, there's always going to be a day when somebody was ready. And because you don't continue to email them, they forget. They find someone else. They sign up with another tutor when the time's right. But if you keep emailing, there will be the time when one person on your email list is ready to sign up, book that call and enroll. So you're going to want to be sending 3 to 4 CTAs, so call to actions a week, to book back in with you. The rest of the emails want to be kind of more nurturing, educational, value driven.
Guys, quick interrupt. I hope you're enjoying the video, but I wanted to make sure you picked up your copy of Teaching on Your Own Terms. It's my best-selling book, and it shares with you the exact 5 steps that I've used with over 2,000 teachers at this point, helping them build their dream online teaching businesses. It went to bestseller in 7 categories. It's been featured by NASDAQ in Times Square, New York City. And I know you're going to love it. Inside of the book, you're going to learn things like how to position yourself as the go-to tutor in the marketplace, and the offer that you can create to get your ideal students reaching out, and how to communicate that. I'll share with you what I've seen as the best advertising strategies to get in front of new students and parents who want what you've got, how to sell your services, and everything you actually need to include in an online group tutoring business to make sure your students crush it and get great results. There's some free gifts and bonuses in there. I think in the first couple of pages, there's a link. You can go and grab some free gifts on me. But I know you're going to love it. Teaching on Your Own Terms. I'll leave a link down below in the comments and go and pick up your copy today.
Okay. So here's the booking system. So what we do is, when we're using the VSL funnel here, simply underneath the VSL, in order to get qualified calls or qualified parents and students to book onto your calendar, you do need to qualify them. Now, a lot of people will do this in the calendar, right? And you probably have on your calendar a few application questions to learn about the prospect. However, if you were to separate them, it creates an extra layer of friction, so it protects your calendar more because they've got to get through the questions first before they book on your calendar. So that way you're only filling the calendar up with people you know who are qualified. Okay. So what you do here, you pre-qualify using an application. You want to know age to make sure it's the right student. And then you can create some logic in your calendars or applications, things like that. And then from there, needs, what their goals are, their motivation, urgency, stuff like that before they see your calendar. So protect yourself there. Then you secure the bookings. Now, what we do is you want to offer less. Now, this should say 2 days. Offer times on 2 days. I'm going to correct that. So it should say offer times on 2 days. And the reason why you only want to offer times on 2 days is because if you let people book out too far in advance, they're not going to show up for the call. So again, you fill your calendar up, and because it's too far in advance, they don't show up and it's wasting calendar space. Okay. And plus, if they're in the buying pocket, they've just seen you want to get them on the call as fast as you can. So offer times 2 days into the future. Okay, or the next 2 days that you have available. Okay, and look, sometimes if it's just you might need to open up your calendar a little bit more. You're just going to have to be really hot on your follow-up to make sure they show up. So that's to make sure you get more bookings. Again, because if it's too far in advance, just remember the show-up rate is going to be less. Okay, and that kind of breaks the funnel because you're getting a lot of bookings, but they don't show. Okay, now the third part is confirming the booking. So what you're going to want to do here is not just rely on your autoresponder. So I've seen a lot of tutoring businesses who get a lot of calls. The issue is they just rely on the automated emails and SMSs that they might send, and then they're waiting on Zoom for these parents and prospects to attend the call, and they never show up. It's because you're not following up manually. So you can absolutely send some reminders that provide your homework task, things like that, but you're also going to need to follow up with them manually. This is where you could just get an assistant to confirm your bookings and calls for you if you're busy doing other things. So based on where you're at in your business in terms of revenue, this is definitely a worthwhile hire, like an application setter or appointment setter, to make sure that people are going to show up. Okay, or some sort of executive assistant. Now from there, you do need to make sure that you're sending out the homework task, whatever it is you have as the homework task, manually as well as in the automations, because you want to make sure they do it, right? That's going to help you close deals faster, whatever it is you're providing for homework. Because again, the trust is going to be there, the buy-in's going to be there. It's going to allow you to sell higher price points. And sure, if you're not selling at a higher price point, you probably don't even need a homework task. But in order to make the acquisition work in 2026 and beyond, you need to sell at premium prices. Okay. And then from there, follow up. Okay. These are the people that will have booked in automatically through the funnel. We're going to come on to funnel stats that you need to shoot for in a sec, but 10% plus, sometimes you can get 20% or higher, but at a bare minimum, you're wanting to get 10% of the leads who come into your funnel on here. So as you come through, people see your calendar, they opt in. You want 10% to book themselves, at least 10%, automatically onto your calendar without you having to lift the finger. Your ad is doing all of that work. To then fill your calendar to make sure that all of your slots that you've got available, so you've got the opportunity to sell, you need to follow up to get 20% of the leads that you get, 20% plus booking in. And that's the stat you're looking for. Now, here's why this entire process works. One, it increases show rate, right? If you've got a solid homework video, there's more trust. If you're letting people book in less days into the future, more likely to show. It's also eliminating time wasters with a solid application in there and keeping the application separate from your calendar. You're pre-selling the family or student with your homework video. So again, more likelihood of the selling is done up front, less selling to do on the call. So making the calls easier to close. Okay. So there's how you implement the booking process. So let's walk through the enrollment process for groups online. Okay. So there's really kind of 7 stages to the entire process. Obviously, I can't walk you through an entire script. That is something that we teach our clients though. But in terms of like just 7 steps to the actual call, one is a pre-frame. Of course, you're setting the standards for the call, letting the prospects know how the call's going to run, what you're going to be doing. You really need a few things inside of the discovery. Okay. So you want to learn what is current situation from the student once you're on Zoom with them. So where they're at, point A, point B, and then you want to do what we call expand the gap. Okay. Because if it seems like it's pretty easy for them to achieve the goals and you haven't expanded the gap, they're not going to want to hire you or work with you, let alone pay you a premium rate. So in order to expand that gap, once you've understood where they are, what they're struggling with, what the problem is versus where they want to go and what their goals and desires and dreams are, then from there, you expand the gap with these three things. Roadblock, what's stopping them from getting there on their own? Do they have a plan that they're confident in on themselves? If not, why not? That type of stuff. Creating doubt that they can get there themselves. Okay. And then the cost of inaction, which is what seals the call. You need to come out with every single discovery, knowing what happens if the student does nothing and they stays where they are and they don't achieve the result they said they want. Okay. So that's what you're looking for inside of your discovery. Transition is where you're wrapping up the discovery. You just have this in your call, so it allows you to clarify exactly where the student's at. I call it taking the doctor frame. If you think about going to the doctor surgery, if you've ever been there, then the doctor understands you, asks you about your symptoms, gets some feedback from you, asks you questions, and then gives you a diagnosis. Right, so that's essentially what you're doing here. And when you take that doctor frame, what happens here at the transition is the parents are going to lean in and want to hear from you, or the students are, because they trust you more, because you've actually given them some solid advice. You've actually been able to punch some holes or expose some problems, rather than just being someone who just agrees and just moves on and say, hey, here's how we're going to help you. Okay? You need to clarify and you need to tell them the problem, because this positions you as the expert, so they're going to be more likely to listen to your offer. And then the fourth step is your offer. When you present your offer, so this is how your roadmap for learning and getting your students' results works. So you know where we spoke about the repeatable process? Students do A, B, C, D, or whatever it is, because you've got one type of student coming in. This is that. So first thing you do is you present your strategy. The next thing you do is you share how I call this the learning trifecta. There's three things that help seal the deal for group enrollments, and it's this, okay? So first is your strategy and outcomes and what results students are going to see at each step and how it's going to help them, what the advantages and benefits are. The second part is making sure that they know in order to achieve this, they've got to become a better student. They've got to develop the winning student mentality or identity. Okay, and the only way they get that is from being in the right environment, being around other students who are ahead of them, because that's what lifts them. Okay, so you present these three things, and then your deliverables, which is all of your support and how you help the students, what they get, the lessons, that type of stuff. So you need to sell, obviously, the journey here, not the plane, right? If you're anchoring what it is you do in your price point to all of the deliverables, so the amount of lessons they get, the curriculum that you might give them, the homework tasks, they're not going to value it. What they value is the result and your plan, your solution. That's what they're after. Okay, not deliverables. Okay, then you go for investment, then objections. So in a nutshell, that's the enrollment process you need to follow. Okay, now here's the pricing then that helps you scale this. So you got the flagship offer, which we talked about. But a lot of the clients, so for example, I shared with you Luke at the top, or Marcus, or Dalton, who did 500 grand cash in a single month. They don't just have their flagship offer that they're selling to new students. They've got different offers that they provide to different students all along the customer journey or the client journey. So they're increasing lifetime value. They're making upsells, upgrades to their current students. Because if you're only selling to new people all the time, it's very hard to get ahead, as you'll see in a second when we come on to the actual number breakdown and forecasting that I've got to show you how to scale your business. So pricing rules. You've got flagship offer. As we said, you want to be charging somewhere in between, again, subject dependent, $1,000 to $3,500 if you can. If you can get higher, great. Again, that's subject dependent. Okay. Anything lower, it will destroy your margins when you run ads. Okay. Now, in terms of when should you raise your prices? Well, generally, if you're closing or enrolling 40% of the students you speak to. So if you speak to 10, 4 enroll, and that's consistently happening over the space of a month or two, great inkling to try a price boost of 20% or 25% until you find the sweet spot when your close rate drops below 20%. Okay, that's when you should probably go back to where it was before and make sure you're solid at that 40% consistently before you look to increase again. Okay, now if students and parents want to break it up and they want to pay in payment plans, you can absolutely do that, but I recommend adding 20 to 25% extra on top. That encourages them to pay in full. Yes, it incentivizes them, but cash is king for your business. You're going to have more to pour back into advertising, hire staff, get students better results, and so forth, and free up your time. Now, next thing, you're going to want to have some sort of annual upgrade. So all of our top tutors who are scaling to 7 figures, they're all able to upgrade their students and get them to stick for an annual, and they create a ladder. They keep hold of their students, right? So this is great on the front end when you're speaking to new students, because it's kind of like saying, hey, let's date before we get married, right? Whereas if you said, hey, let's get married right away, they're probably going to say no because it's too long a time and commitment. They don't quite trust you enough yet. But once you've got students, some point during that 12-week process, you can get them, or plan, you can get them to sign up for the year, and you find a point when they're doing well, and you offer them an amazing opportunity to sign up and stay for the year. That way, you can create more cash per student of obviously lifetime value. You generally, for 12 weeks, anywhere from 20-30% savings on an annual plan. So just work it out how much it would be over the course of a year and add in 20-30% savings. Now, if you get good at selling this consistently to your current students, you can absolutely at that point start trying to sell it to new students you speak to, because you can always downsell them into the 12 weeks. Okay. Another way that you can scale your pricing in 2026 is you add a VIP tier. So think about when you go to, if everyone knows this scenario, you go to McDonald's and they say, hey, do you want to supersize that? Or, hey, do you want to go large? Well, you can do this for your tutoring business. You can provide a VIP tier. Okay, so basically another rung on the pricing ladder. So as soon as the students are paid, they're primed to buy more. They've got that kind of dopamine hit, right? So now you can say, hey, there's something else I think would be beneficial for you. We actually have our VIP masterclass or mastermind sessions or whatever it is. And it can just be a simple extra fee per month. So it's essentially just an upgrade. And all this can be, as you start to teach less, you can have an extra session with you. And so it might even be the only sessions that you end up doing for your students and tutoring are these VIP club sessions. Okay, you can then limit the spaces on this. It makes it more desirable, when people don't want to drop out. And as I said, offer it to students immediately after enrolling. Now, long term, I don't recommend this in the beginning at all until, you're consistently doing, six figures, high six figures. I don't recommend this. But as you do get to that point, what you can do is add in a self-paced offer. The reason being, it takes a lot to run. You're going to need to have the team in place because you do need to focus on onboarding. And generally, when you've got something that's lower cost, self-paced, expectations go here, right? Because people are spending like their hard-earned money and don't have a lot of it, which is why they're not in your premium program. But long-term, once you've got a team in place and you can focus on this, it will need a little bit of running, even though it's self-paced. And that's why I recommend adding it in last. People who don't close, so the students who aren't able to enroll, whether it's finances or they're not ready or whatever it is, or for whatever reason, you can create some sort of self-paced learning portal or curriculum that you can downsell to these students. Now, it's super important you do not run ads to this. Because again, the margins simply do not work. The economics of running ads to something that's low ticket, low paced, if you don't have all the other systems and processes in place and team, it's not going to work. Okay. If it's just you taking enrollment calls, for example, you're better to just speak to people and sell something premium. And that's going to make sure you've got better margins, better return on ad spend, things like that. But you can add this in down the line and you can send people into this as a monthly subscription if they're not able after a follow-up to enroll into your premium flagship program. Okay. So let's look at the scaling math of 2026 as we look to close this out and near the end. So here's the math behind scaling to 100 grand months in 2026. So all the way down your funnel, there's certain metrics that you need to hit. Now, bear in mind, we've worked with thousands of tutors, so this isn't just plucked from a few advertising campaigns. This is what we've seen over the past 5 years, that all of our top tutors, they hit to scale. Okay. So click to leads, when someone clicks on your ad, you're ideally looking to get 20% of them opt in, submit an application, give you their info, right? So you can contact them. Okay, so whether that's into Messenger, whether it's submitted the instant form, or whether it's filled out the application on the VSL or shortcut funnel. Okay, from those people who take that step, we're wanting 10 to 30%. Okay, 20% is great as well. So anywhere in between that is fantastic. Okay, it's scalable. You can really spend more on your ads once you've got this. Okay, out of those people who go through the first step, 10 to 30% book a call. Okay, from those people who book a call, somewhere between 60 to 75% are going to show up for the call. The close rate out of those people, somewhere between 25 to 50. And then your program price, we already spoke about this, $1,000 to $3,500. Now, I want you to have a look at this forecasting scale just here. So again, this is something we help our clients forecast so they can see exactly how much they need to spend based on how many leads they need, how many calls they need to take in order to hit their revenue goals based on the current funnel metrics in their business. So let's say over here, my goal was to hit $100,000. Now, if my program price my flagship 12-week offer was $1,000. Okay. And my current show up rate, so bookings into live calls, was 70%. Close rate, so out of those people that jumped on a call, I'm closing 1 in 10, right? So 40%. And I'm spending £10 per lead or $10. I'm getting 20% of the leads to book a call. It now shows me, in order to even hit this $100,000, I'm going to need to hit 17,000, or I'm going to need to push 17 grand into ads in order to hit that. But here's the problem. You can see I need 59 leads a day. I'm going to need almost 12 applications or bookings a day. And I'm going to need 12 actual conversations, like Zoom calls. Okay, 250 calls a month with new students in order to hit that. Now, that seems pretty hard, right? So this allows us to look at the business and it's like, hey, look, this is why our tutors are not scaling their businesses just with cold traffic. They're using things like the VIP tier. They're using things like upgrades to their students. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult to get to that $100,000 if you're just trying to do it with new sales all the time. But what you can do, of course, just a little tweak in this, you're going to need to have a sales team to take that many calls. And that you've got to manage other people, that type of stuff. So I've got this here. Now, if I was to boost my program price point to $2,000, my advertising cuts in half. Okay. And my applications or bookings, I only need 5 or 6 a day now. Plus I only need to take 6 calls, more manageable. So what I could do here, now I can tweak this, right? I could even, if I was to charge, and this is why you can see how important it is to be able to charge more. And this is why a lot of our tutors get there quicker once they switch to annual plans and get good at selling that to their current students, because now they can sell it to new students because they've got experience. Now it becomes way more manageable, right? So if you've got something more expensive to sell, it helps it. Now let's say you got to that point where you're just charging $1,500. Well, at this point, you're going to need a lot of leads in, right? You're not going to deal with that many leads yourself. So you're going to need to focus on just getting more opportunity from the leads you do have. So this is where you would hire something like an application setter. So you can take that up to 30%. Okay. So your leads goes down. Okay. And therefore, obviously the funnel metrics become easier. And again, you're still going to need, you can spend less on ads. You're going to get better return, things like that. Okay. But this is why you're absolutely going to need to have a premium price point and have other ways to sell to your students. Okay. So let's walk through some funnel optimization strategies. So once I'm tracking my ads, I just kind of touched on a few things there on the screen. I'm showing exactly what you could do, right? You can raise your price and that reduces the required calls massively. You can create better ads. You can improve your actual ad, which means so you can use more video, better hooks, better positioning. You're going to get more qualified leads. Again, leads to more opportunity. If you are better at following up, you follow up with your leads faster yourself, you're obviously going to get more bookings. You're going to get more opportunity. Now, faster follow-up could be from hiring something like an application setter if you're not following up with your leads yourself. Now, if your leads are better nurtured, so you provide better content in your system, better homework, the leads are going to be more nurtured, higher show up, higher close rate. Okay. And then you can improve your sales skills, which obviously is going to lead to higher close rate. So if you're tracking this, you can see exactly where you need to improve. And that's when it becomes more predictable. Okay. And so just a lot of people don't track. And that's like me going to the gym, wanting to lose a ton of weight. I'm not tracking my calories or my workouts or anything. Okay. So in terms of example tracking metrics, here's what we did for a French tutor that we scaled when we took over the ad account. You can see here, 34 grand, a 24x return on ad spend. So we can see here, they spent $1,000, so 1,400. We tracked this and we green light all the way down if we're on track. So that way, if some of them were red, which obviously they would have been before we were able to optimize it, we're able to pinpoint, okay, we need to improve the ad. Okay, we need to improve the show up rate, which means we might need better homework. We might need faster follow-up, better automations, things like that. So we can see here, clicks into leads, 29%. So out of we got 107 leads. You can see our cost per lead was $13. And then from the leads, 78% of people booked in. Almost everybody booked a call. Okay. Then because the other processes were good, bookings into calls, 77% show up rate. And then because the leads were arriving pre-qualified and nurtured, 46% call to close. So it was only costing $46 to acquire a client, a student acquisition cost. Okay. So therefore the advertising becomes predictable. Now to round this up, and that's how you scale, you've got to track these numbers. To round this up, here's the roadmap and the checklist for you. So scaling checklist. Step 1, Fix your offer foundations, tighten your promise, the result you offer to students, better economics, your price point, and make sure you've got a good delivery model, which means it is not you teaching one-on-one and your students have not just got group lessons, but time away from the group lessons as well, with teaching assistants, study curriculum, a parent-student mastermind. Then once you've sorted that, you're focusing on and optimizing your acquisition system. Make sure you've got the right funnel based on where you're at in your business. Make sure you're nurturing your leads. And then you're tracking this to optimize the funnel drop-offs like I walked through there. Track it, and then just spend your time focusing on where the drop-off and the break is. Then you just need a better delivery infrastructure in place. So the last thing that you should be doing is teaching yourself once you're looking to scale to these 100 grand months. Okay, even once you're at 10K plus in your tutoring business, your delivery time should be absolute maximum 10 hours. And then you want to quickly scale it back to at least no more than really 4 or 5 hours once you're kind of hitting 6 figures. Okay, remove yourself from delivery, hire tutors and TAs, and then once you can take yourself out of all the tutoring lessons once you've filled out your tutor schedules. And then what you do is to add value on and make sure you're still on the ground, you're in the trenches, you get the opportunity to experience how your students are feeling. You add in what we call masterclass sessions. So these are like one-off drop-in sessions each week where you tutor all of your students. So you still get to see them, more lecture-based style. And that way they still get to see you. You're still present, but it's way more leverage for you. And then obviously add in VIP and annual plans to make sure you can boost LTV, lifetime value. And then once you're doing all of that, it's really just about more at this point. So you're scaling and expanding with teams, more tutors, student success specialists to check in with students, keep them accountable. So the tutors who've now got full classes, they're not having to do all of that. You've got kind of like concierges checking with the students, application setters to make sure you've got more opportunity on the calendars. And now you just focus on enrolling one-on-one, so the Zoom calls, but that's not scalable. That's only scalable up to a certain point. Eventually, you're going to need to switch to one-to-many. Or you could hire a sales team, but that's pretty hard. You've got to have the right price point. You've then got to train people in order to do that, and it does become tricky, okay? So one of the ways that we've seen a lot of our tutors scale, like Alan, who you saw at the top, scaled to 7 figures. Dalton, you saw scaled to 500 grand cash. They're selling their tutoring services once they're ready, one-to-many, so simply webinar style. And now at that point, you've got more time. You now focus on building in more products, expanding your offer, different subjects, things like that. Or that's when you might build in something like the self-paced plan, like we said. Okay, so that's it. Offer, acquisition, delivery, scale, 4 steps. So you can see quickly as well, there's obviously more than one way to skin a cat. You can see how you can easily scale to 7 figures. On your own, let's say you were charging bare minimum when you start off. This is where most tutors start, 500 for 12 weeks, 5 students a group, 10 groups, that's 50 students, right? They'd be seeing you once a week probably at that rate. That's 50 students, okay? Over 10 groups, 10 hours teaching. If there's 50 students signing up over the 12 weeks, they're all paying $500. That's 25 grand a cycle, okay? 4 cycles, give or take in the year, providing obviously you keep all of those groups full for that period of time. That's the simple math to 6-figure business as a tutor. That's what most tutors do. Then obviously you're scaling to by hiring teams, 2 tutors. Again, at this point, you haven't even changed the price point. Now you simply got 30 groups, two other tutors, and you teaching full groups of 5 students, okay, 10 each, that's 150 students, right? You can do the math, that's 300 grand a year, scale it to 10 tutors, 1 million, okay? Now that's one way to get to 7 figures as an online tutor. But as I said, this really doesn't give you the metrics or the margins to be able to hire a team, hire tutors to help. So this is how you actually do scale. Scenario 1, you could increase the group, right? It's the same scale as there. At this point, you're not tutoring at all. 100 groups with 10 students in a group, that's 1,000 students. Now, if you didn't change your rate and you were charging bare minimum of 500 a student, there's 2 million a year. But again, very difficult to make the ads work at that point. You could change the price, okay, which will give out a similar scenario, doubling your business, of course. Again, you're not tutoring. You still keep 5 students in a group because subject dependent, sometimes you might have to do that, okay? You might not always be able to expand the groups. So that means you'd be teaching 500 students. If each student's paying a grand times 500, that's 500 grand per cycle. If there's 4 cycles a year, 2 grand, okay? The best way is obviously price point and group size, okay? If you can do a combo, that's how you can scale front-end acquisition a lot faster, Okay, because now you've got 10 tutors, 100 groups, 10 per group, 1,000 students, 1,000 minimum per student, grand times 1,000, $1 million per cycle, 4 cycles a year, 4 million a year. And so you can only see what happens now you start to charge more, like I recommended. If you're charging $2,000, that doubles to 8 million. And so the only thing that you need in place as an online tutor to get there is a predictable way to enroll students. And then it is just about more. That's how more tutors, more opportunity, more products to offer your students, more ascensions, more students enrolling or upgrading. And that's how you scale your business in 2026. Now, if you want to get our help implementing this entire roadmap and strategy, we can help you do this. We can build out a scale plan together. There'll be a link somewhere down below the video. You can click that, book in with my team, and we'll give you a full-on demo of exactly how we would help you scale your tutoring business predictably in 2026. What funnel you should use based on where you're starting from, what nurture system you should build based on what you've currently got available in your business, and really a predictable growth plan to hit your next revenue goal in 2026. So use that link down below. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.